So I'm here with Zach Laws and Luca Giliberti, and we are going to be talking about the 71st Emmy races for Best Lead Actor and Lead Actress in a Limited Series or Movie, but the Emmys did not care for any movies this year, so all of our nominees are from Limited Series. And on the leading actor side, we have Patricia Arquette for Escape at Dannemora. She won the SAG Award, surprisingly, the Critics' Choice Award, the Golden Globe Award, and Zach, now you've put her down in fourth place in your predictions, and you even updated your predictions in that category earlier this week.
I did, yes.
Why are you discounting the precursors and this powerhouse performance?
Because for the very simple reason that when she won all of those awards, Fosse Verdon hadn't premiered yet, and so there was no Michelle Williams to beat her. Also the fact that there was no When They See Us. And while I don't think that Niecy Nash is necessarily a formidable challenger in this category, there is a lot of passion for that show. And there is some passion for her performance. I think the fact that, she's a comedian doing drama now has really taken a lot of people by surprise. And, that could work in her favor, especially if that show goes on a sweep. But I think that this is Michelle Williams's to lose. And I think that if there is a second place vote, oddly enough, it might be Amy Adams, just because Sharp Objects did manage to get into Limited Series when a lot of us had written it off. And, I know a lot of people are predicting Patricia Clarkson to win as well, and it just seems weird that they would reward her and not Amy Adams. But yeah, look, Patricia Arquette could still very easily win. She did win all of those prizes, but I just feel like Escape at Dannemora benefited from not having any real competition when all of those guilds and other televised events were going on. And had there been a Fosse Verdon, had there been a Chernobyl, had there been a When They See Us, I don't think that it would have gone on the sweep that it did. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Escape at Dannemora is going to be an Emmy powerhouse, and I'm completely off my rocker. But I just think Michelle Williams has given a performance that everybody loves. She's the thing that people talk about when they talk about that show, and I think that we're going to see this as the kickoff to her winning the Emmy, the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice, and the SAG Award.
Oh, no, I get that. I mean, Fosse Verdon wasn't around during the Fall Awards, but Sharp Objects was. Mm-hmm. And, Sharp Objects is even older than Escape at Dannemora right now and back then. And it got fewer nominations than Escape at Dannemora. So I guess I'm not really following you on that, but I guess that's okay.
It's a limb, okay, but I just Amy Adams has got this strong following. I think that there's some people who definitely like to see her finally win something. Maybe they feel bad for her that she didn't win the Golden Globe and the SAG and the Critics' Choice for this performance. I don't know.
Well, she got the Critics' Choice in a tie. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, whatever. She didn't really win it. I don't know. It's maybe I'll reshuffle it a little bit. I just have this feeling that it's Michelle Williams and everybody else, so it doesn't really matter where I place the other 5 wonderful contenders.
Wow. Well, I do agree. I do have Michelle Williams in the front runner position. Before the nominations came out, I thought she was, at least in second or third place. But once Fosse Verdon got 17 nominations, I immediately moved her to my number 1 position, because if you looked on Twitter or anywhere else and people were talking about Fosse Verdon, then it was about Michelle Williams' performance and how great she was as Gwen Verdon and how she inhabited that role seamlessly, how she sings and she dances and she does so many things at once. So I do think this is her time. She's never really won an award. She has won a Golden Globe in the past, but she still doesn't have an Oscar. She doesn't have an Emmy. And I think this will be her award. That being said, we should never, ever underestimate Patricia Arquette, because her performance in Escape at Dannemora is extremely powerful. She is very showy as Joyce Tilly Mitchell. She gained a lot of weight for the role. She's playing a real-life person as well. And she did sweep the circuit. Plus, she's very popular. She's very active on Twitter. She's, supports women's rights, and she's, out there all the time. So I do think she has a lot of support from her peers. And one more thing I want to mention is that I think this category is one of the best categories of the entire year. The performances that are nominated are all incredible, and I'm just happy that Joey King is nominated for the act, because I think she gave one of the best performances of the year.
Yeah, in general, it is a strong category. I mean, 3 of these performances were nominated at the Television Critics Association Awards in their catch-all category of supporting lead, movie, miniseries, drama, male, female category. So we had Amy Adams and Michelle Williams and Patricia Arquette there. And Michelle Williams won. And she just, it seems like people have really rallied for her with this performance. I think that she was robbed a couple years ago for All the Money in the World. I really would have liked to have seen her get an Oscar nomination over most of the nominees that year. But with this performance, I'll just say it, I don't really get it. This is one of those times like Matt Bomer with The Normal Heart, where I'm like, is that it?
Oh, wow.
But I was burned with that one, and I assume that I'm not going to be burned this time, because everybody is telling me how great she is. I kind of wonder if Patricia Arquette is still in the race, just because of all the reasons that Luca said about how it's such a transformative performance. It's, very broad. I feel like it's very accessible, especially the industry really proved that they took to Escape at Dannemora in the Precursor Awards, maybe not as much in the Emmy nominations, though. One more thing that I don't get about this category is what happened to Amy Adams. Now, Amy Adams is not giving a transformative performance like Patricia Arquette, but I feel like everybody saw Sharp Objects, and it was generally liked, and, she did cry and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how Patricia Arquette was able to pass her in the Precursors when I perceive there to be such a disparity in visibility.
Well, this is, difficult to say, but because I love Patricia Arquette's performance, and it is my favorite performance in this category and one of my favorite performances of the year. But I think once she won the Golden Globe, I think she had all of the other awards. So at least the SAG Awards, she had it locked up, because we see this very often at award shows, where if you win the first one, like the Golden Globes in this case, then it's very likely that you're going to sweep, or at least get another win, like at Critics' Choice or at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. So I think that's why Amy Adams is, probably in third place here. And I do think it's a very internal performance. I think it's an incredible performance. It's one of her best. But I wonder if that will work against her in this case, because if you look at her category, she's the only actress playing a character that isn't a real life person, because everyone else is playing a real life person. And in the case of Michelle Williams, Patricia Arquette, and Joey King, it's transformative performances where they, have wigs, they look completely different, they're putting on accents, they're gaining a bunch of weight, whereas Amy Adams is still recognizable as Amy Adams, despite, for instance, the words that she carved into her skin as Camille Preaker on the show. One other thing that I wanted to mention is that kudos to When They See Us for being ballsy and submitting Niecy Nash and Anjanou Ellis as leads, because I thought they were completely insane for doing that. But as we saw, it really helped them, because both of them got in. And Niecy Nash is a previous Emmy nominee. If the support is really, 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 really big for When They See Us, I wouldn't count her out completely, because she does give a really good performance in episode 4, even if that's pretty much the only episode she's really, prominent in.
I mean, kudos to When They See Us for submitting Ingenue Ellis at all. Shows often like to try to strategize, just submit maybe 1 or 2 per category. When They See Us went all out. They submitted 31 actors. I doubt all of them were even eligible under the 5% rule, but I didn't total it up because I didn't take them seriously as contenders, which it turns out the show was full of extremely serious contenders. So good for them. And since I threw out some previous preferences, I'll throw out some more to remove any accusations of bias that might pop up. I'll say that Patricia Arquette should not have won for Boyhood, and Amy Adams should have won for Vice.
There you go, old Riley going, putting it all out there. I will say, for Ingenue Ellis, the nomination is the reward. I think that was one of those moments where the vast majority of people watching the Emmy nominations went, wait, who? And then quickly realized who she was playing and understood why she got nominated for that performance. But certainly something like this is going to help boost her career in unimaginable ways. That being said, I don't think that the vote splitting rule is going to be in effect here. I think that Niecy Nash, being previous Emmy nominee, actually a daytime Emmy winner, and the fact that she has the showier performance helps her overall. But Luca, you make a good point, which is that it's not until episode 4 that she really gets to shine. And same thing in a lot of ways with Jarrell Jerome. We'll talk about this a little bit later when we get to the male category. But their winning is really going to depend on whether or not voters watch all of When They See Us, which is not a problem that Michelle Williams or Amy Adams or Patricia Arquette or Joey King has. They really need to invest all of their time in watching the 4 episodes of this show in order to understand why they should be voting for Niecy Nash or Ingenue Ellis, for that matter, any of the actors in When They See Us, because it is so spread out. It is so much of a whole, all of their performances.
Yeah. And speaking of Joey King, I think something else that's important to mention regarding Patricia Arquette is that she's also nominated for the act in the supporting actress category. And while that could benefit her because of the 1-2 punch of transformative performances, I fear that it'll actually hurt her chances, because there will be voters who vote for her in lead for Escape Dannemora, and then there will be people who vote for her in supporting for the act, perhaps as a consolation prize. Riley very often mentions how if someone's nominated for 2 performances, that they usually go with the bigger one or the more prominent one, which in this case would be Escape at Dannemora. But I actually think a lot of people really liked her performance in the act as much as they liked her performance in Escape at Dannemora, and I think she will split the vote across categories.
I'm not concerned at all about When They See Us having a visibility issue. I think that voters definitely watched all 4 episodes since they got so many people in. Plus, it's only 5 hours of their time, so I don't think they need to invest all of their time to watch all of these performances. And I figured that after all the Emmy nominations, that anyone who hadn't seen it before would have watched it then. As for, I like what you guys are saying about how Patricia Arquette, even though, Michelle Williams, even though she has won a Golden Globe, there is this perception that she hasn't really won a major award. And I feel like the Emmys in recent years, under this popularity system, they like to kind of cover people that they feel like have put in their time and deserve some recognition. And I don't think that people feel like Patricia Arquette has gone under-awarded. You know, she's been winning awards for a very long time. Not only did she sweep the circuit very recently for this show, but she also, you know, swept for Boyhood, and she also surprised years ago for Medium, winning her first Emmy there. Mm-hmm. So I think that if voters are looking to kind of right the scales or whatever, then that does not bode well for Arquette.
Yeah. And just one last thing about this race that I did want to mention is how significant Joey King's nomination is, because when the nominations came out, she was just 19 years old. Now she's 20. And I believe she is one of the youngest nominees in this category, at least in recent years. And the fact that the act only got in 2 nominations, which is for her in lead and Patricia Arquette in supporting, and that she was one of the 2 nominations, I think is significant and does show that voters at least watch the show, which may not be important for this race because I fear for her that she just doesn't really have a chance with, you know, Michelle, Patricia, and Amy probably in the first 3 spots. But it could tell us something about the supporting actress race, which we'll probably talk about at one point, but not today.
I mean, we'll see. We're running out of time here.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's switch over to the leading actor side. When They See Us is what we are all predicting to win Outstanding Limited Series, and Jharrel Jerome, he's a breakthrough actor. I feel like in the vein of Darren Criss last year, Riz Ahmed the year before, in these very strong limited series. We are all predicting him to win this award. Are you guys extremely confident? Is he a lock, or what makes you hesitate?
The fact that he's so young and that this is his first major go at any kind of awards, you know, the thing that makes me feel, let's say 70% confident, 65, is that there is a lot of passion for this performance. You know, a lot of the talk about When They See Us has been around Jharrel Jerome and around the 4th episode in particular, which is all about Corey Wise's stay in prison, right? You know, the fact that he is the only one of the 5 who plays them as both a youth and as an adult, I think contributes to this sense of, you know, he is the star of the show. And I think people are just so impressed by what he was able to do that there is this sort of groundswell of support for him in the same way that there was, you know, for Darren Criss or Riz Ahmed. Now, that being said, I mean, I think that his competition is Jared Harris in Chernobyl, which is, you know, a show that has a ton of Emmy nominations and a ton of love and respect. And I think that if there is going to be a spoiler for When They See Us, it's that. You know, and Harris has been knocking around for a long time. Obviously, he's an Emmy nominee for Mad Men. He's been in television and films. It was in The Crown. Very nearly got nominated for that. You know, and I think that this could be, for him, a career achievement award. The only problem is that I think there's more respect for his performance than there is passion, the way there is for Jharrel Jerome.
Yeah. For Jharrel Jerome, what I think is very interesting in regards to our odds is that before the nominations came out, I think he was like in 7th place, you know, trying to break into the top 6. But I think with him, it's one of those cases where if he gets nominated, we're going to predict him to win. Mm-hmm. And that's where I currently stand, because I got to see When They See Us before it came out. And I immediately put him in my predictions. And as soon as the nominations came out, put him at number 1 immediately, just because he gives a performance that was talked about. And it was more than talked about. While Twitter is no indicator, if you look at all the celebrities, all his fellow actors that were praising his performance or singing their praises for his performance, to me, it just shows how much passion there is for it. And I think if there's one acting when the show, bags, then it has to be for him because he completely owns the fourth episode. He plays a very obviously sympathetic character that you feel incredibly sorry for in this episode. It's very difficult to watch. His age, I worry about, but I feel like with the many young nominees we saw this year, I think age will become less of a factor in down the line. At least I hope so. That being said, I do think Jared Harris is absolutely in second place, and I would not be surprised at all if he won, because as much support as there was for Jerome's performance, there was just as much for Jared Harris's performance. The difference is that his performance is very quiet. He, plays the scientist who's, trying to save the world. Well, not the world, but is trying to tell people what exactly happened. And that could resonate with a big group of Emmy voters as well. And he is someone who's been waiting to get his due for a while now.
Yeah, it's not quite as expressive a performance. It's very expository, actually.
Yeah,
I feel like Jerome, he absolutely is that person who his struggle is just to get the nomination because of his lack of name recognition, because the show came out at the end of voting. But now that he's in, I think he is, going to win. The only hesitation I have is that the Television Critics Association didn't take to him. I expected to see him among their nominees, but, not a huge slight given that none of his competitors got in and it was a catch-all category. I just think that maybe there's not quite as much passion as would have been possible. In third place, I actually have Mahershala Ali, who I think you guys have in fifth and sixth, which I understand because that's not a performance that has a lot of heat. True Detective, it seems like everybody saw it since it got, I think, 9 nominations. Somehow without getting into the limited series race, but since it was not in that top race, it seems like there's a bit of a disconnect between people appreciating it and actually loving it. Yeah. But with Jerome being, kind of an unknown, and Jared Harris giving this reserve performance, I do kind of wonder if Mahershala Ali is kind of just the actor that they love, and here's another place that they can award him. And it is arguably a better performance than he won either of his Oscars for. He's playing himself over 3 different time periods. And because it's an 8-episode series, he gets to explore this character in a lot of ways that he didn't in, say, his 15 minutes at the start of Moonlight.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was going to say, I think that if True Detective had gotten in for limited series, he would be more of a contender. But the fact is, it feels more like an afterthought in a lot of ways. I think that the problem that all the other contenders who are not Jerome or Jared Harris have is that, they seem to be hindered by certain extraneous factors. Sam Rockwell in Fosse Verdon is overshadowed by his co-star. Hugh Grant and Mahershala Ali are hurt by the fact that neither of their respective shows got into the series race, despite being very popular with Emmy voters. And Benicio del Toro has got the Sam Rockwell problem, where he's overshadowed by his co-star. And so, Mahershala, just winning 2 Oscars does help him. But I think that the fact that True Detective, failed to get into series, it makes it would be an odd winner, I'll say.
I actually think that him winning 2 Oscars doesn't necessarily help. I mean, of course it helps him because an Oscar win will always help someone at the Emmys, but I think, like I mentioned regarding Rachel Brosnahan in the comedy actress Slugfest, I feel like people have there's this sentiment that Mahershala Ali has been rewarded now. And I feel like there is a Mahershala Ali fatigue because he not only won the Oscar for Green Book, he swept. He won the Golden Globe, he won the Critics' Choice, he won SAG, he was on stage so many times giving speeches. I feel like they will probably want to move on to someone else, especially with so many options in this category. I think his performance was incredible in True Detective. I mean, Riley, you mentioned he plays a character across 3 different timelines. He cries and he has this transformation, this physical transformation. And I think it's probably one of his best roles yet. But the fact that the series didn't get in, of course, is very important. And Sam Rockwell and Benicio del Toro, Zach, as you said, are completely overshadowed by other actors on their respective shows.
Are we in total agreement about about the winners here?
We are indeed, and we agree with the Gold Derby odds as well.
How basic of us!
How basic, yeah. In the end, in the end, someone like Mahershala Ali wins, and then we'll be. Nah, that's not happening.
All right. So to our viewers, look for us during the Creative Arts ceremony. Zach will be attending the ceremony, so he will not be in this video, but he will actually be relaying to us the winners. I and Luca and others will be here to give you the winners as they come up and analyze them and make predictions about whatever category is next.